Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 164, which you can enjoy in a chair or on the floor. And I am your host and podcast commander, Joseph Martin, joined by...
Hi, I'm Anna. I got a new Switch.
Hi, I'm Blu Ryder, and I do not have a new Switch.
I'm Alex the Jedraszczak. I have one of the old Switches.
Well, that's a discussion about video games in the introduction. We're becoming much more efficient at this.
Yeah.
We've already covered one full topic. Well, Anna, I think there's maybe a little bit more detail, because what kind of new Switch have you acquired in recent times?
I got the OLED Switch.
Wow.
So my best friend does not have a Switch, and we were talking about it when she had to take me to the urgent care.
As you do.
While we were waiting for an hour and a half for someone to come tell me to take ibuprofen.
Oh.
But
How much did you have to pay for that diagnosis?
Man, I sure hope not a lie. I haven't seen a bill yet.
Oh no.
But she was saying she doesn't have one, and I've been thinking about it for a while, maybe getting a new Switch, because I like the bigger screen. And that's pretty much the only thing about this thing that's much newer, aside from the kickstand.
Oh, how's the kickstand?
I haven't used it yet.
Oh,
I've only pulled it up so I can put in the new
because I have the
micro
old one,
SD.
and the kickstand is garbage.
It is very bad.
I just don't use the kickstand for anything.
Yeah, I was going to say is that my
you
Switch
can't.
This one
is
The
basically...
only purpose it has is to fall off or fall down.
Yeah, it's great. This is much better. I've used it kind of once just to put in the micro SD, but
Yeah.
But I'm using it right this second to prop it up while it's still plugged in. Yeah, it's doing pretty good. It's great. It's not moving because the full back is the kickstand.
Oh, really?
But I have a Best Buy credit card, and it would have been easier.
You could have used that as the kickstand.
Could have.
But yeah, I primarily just use the Switch as a console. I think it's pretty much permanently attached to my TV. I know I was like sick one time, or maybe it was when I got the COVID shot, and I was just like in bed with the Switch, and I was like playing Donut County or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think Donut County is one of those games where it's better played as a touch screen game, and I think actually that's why I was holding it as a portable instead of using the TV.
Yeah, I used it as in docked mode, like when I first got it in college, but especially since moving to London, I don't really have a good TV here. The TV that came with the apartment makes a weird buzzing sound, and also it's like hung up on the wall, and there's not a table next to it for me to put the dock on. Yeah. So there's like not really anything I can do about that. So I've just been playing it pretty exclusively in handheld mode.
Yeah.
That's my contribution to this shared moment we're having about the Nintendo Switch and its uses. Blue, what do you do? Do you use it like upside down or something fun like that?
He's from Canada,
they took
not
that
from
out of the
Australia.
Zero Escape game, so...
I legitimately can't tell you if you're joking or not.
Okay, so in the original DS version of 999, one of the last puzzles is upside down Sudoku, but in the remake they couldn't do that because you can't turn your... Well, you could turn your TV or your monitor upside down, but it's not as simple a task as your DS.
So how do you play your Nintendo Switch?
With my hands.
Would you say, like, it's held in your hands, specifically?
Most of the time, yeah.
If only there was a word for that.
There isn't, so we should move on.
Couldn't tell you. I'm sure there is in another language, it just doesn't have a direct translation.
Oh, yeah, one of those, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Schadenfreude or some such.
I'm just trying to transfer all of my save data, and I think I might have messed up.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
So,
live on the stream.
It's just going to be me crying. It's like, no, my save data. Mostly the only thing that this is super crushing for is Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah, Animal Crossing is weird about it.
Yeah, this is the only one that I've, oh man.
Do you need a minute?
I might need some prayers. Some thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, yeah.
Thoughts and also prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, please.
So what I was going to ask is, since you're probably not going to be using the OLED Switch in the next, hour or so, do you have any hopes and dreams for it? Like in terms of like how it's going to be better that we'll circle back to next time you're on the podcast?
Not really. I just, like I said, I just like the bigger screen. I personally use it as a handheld, like constantly. I don't use it on my TV unless I'm playing Just Dance or something. It's really just a handheld for me for the most part. But
haven't they been talking about the Switch Pro basically since the Switch came out?
yeah, and I don't know
Yes.
how much I trust it, which is why I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna get the thing. All my pictures I think are gone too. Oh no.
Oh. Yikes.
Oh no, they're all still here. Woo. Oh no, they're not. But most
What?
of them are here. That's fine. Let's see what's on the micro SD. Oh, all the micro SD ones transferred.
Hooray, victory.
That's what really matters. Cool. Yeah, I'm just here for the experience, and also I should probably get a screen protector.
I think this may be something worth circling back to next podcast when you actually have some experience to share with us. So why don't we move on? Blue, I usually ask everybody before the podcast if they have any video game stuff that they want to talk about, and we didn't hit Blue. So Blue, what is there any video game stuff you want to talk about?
I just checked, and Super Fuse comes out in 2 days.
All right. Now,
pretty
that's not going to be
excited about
true when people are listening to this.
No, but for me personally, it's true, and that's all I really care about.
I'm just like, I kind of sometimes like the podcast to exist in like a timeless ether.
Well,
And now
not
people are
this
gonna know
episode.
that it was recorded on January 28th, 2023. So,
Sometimes I feel like you need to suffer a little bit, and this was just a nice dose.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think you adhere yourself very much to that little bit part of the statement.
This was a
plural.
little dose.
What? I would never do anything.
You would never do
I would
anything
never do
intentionally
anything.
to upset me.
To
Correct?
to upset you.
Can we all, what if we do a little pledge, like a
One
little
of
like
my
sign in
very,
blood
very
sort of
good
thing?
friends of over 10 years.
Well, let's pull out a contract with some
I'm not
legally
signing
enforceable
anything.
penalties.
I will sign nothing.
So what is this video game, Blue?
It's an action RPG where you play as a really customizable, like, sort of superhero-ish character. So it's sort of gonna be like Marvel Heroes, I guess, was Diablo with Marvel characters, except this one doesn't have Marvel characters, but it does have the superhero-ish vibes. So
Is
I'm
that sort
looking
of how you
forward
made
to
it
it.
across your news feed?
Yeah, I think so. And Marvel Heroes was like my favorite game, and I didn't get to play it nearly enough, so I'm hoping this will finally scratch that itch, but we'll see.
All right, looking forward to it, and to hearing you talk about a video game.
Maybe
Jeddy.
next time as well.
Yeah, maybe next time. We'll see. Jeddy, you have been moving
Yes.
very slowly.
Yeah.
It took you 2 months to get from one place to another.
Yep.
And you'd think you could have picked up the pace a little bit, but you're
Yeah.
back, and I assume you have some opinions about video games that have developed in those times.
A bit. So it's primarily from before the move really started happening. I had bought where was it? I got a GameStop gift card. And so I ended up buying, what did I buy? I bought Hyrule Warriors, which I actually like have not played yet because of the move.
That's okay. I bought Luigi's Mansion 3 like years ago, and I still haven't played it.
Yeah.
Because I bought it at the same time I bought Pokemon Sword
yeah,
and Shield,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I also bought with my GameStop gift card Pokémon Legends Arceus. And that was my, like, I was playing that for a while. Like, you know, every day, get done with work, immediately just start playing, and then, like, go to sleep and wake up the next morning, go to work, and then play more of the game.
So now, because from previous podcasts, we know that this isn't a given. Did you actually like the video game that you were playing every day nonstop?
Man, I don't...
Jeddy.
I don't know.
Jeddy.
So here's the thing, right?
What do
Okay.
you mean?
So
what do you mean?
So here's the
I don't
thing.
know.
I feel like Pokemon Legends did a lot of things that, like, I wanted out of a Pokemon game, right? That, like, when I played Sword and Shield, I kind of didn't really, like, care about it that much, right? That, like, a few years ago, I went back and I played, like, the original Pokemon, and I really enjoyed that. And then I was playing, which one was it? I was playing, like, Omega Ruby or something like that. And, like, I was having fun with that, and I was enjoying that. But I couldn't really get into Sword and Shield in the same way. It was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I'm playing a Pokemon game, but I don't know. But, like, Pokemon Legends did a lot of the things that I feel like encourages you to go and collect Pokemon, right? Like, Pokemon, gotta catch them all, you know, all 486 of them or whatever. And yeah.
Okay.
And so now the thing is that, like, Pokemon Legends, you get kind of experience points for catching Pokemon and for, like, seeing them do certain attacks and, like, catching them in certain ways where, like, oh, you caught these ones during the day, you caught these ones at night, or like, oh, this one you saw it use, you know, Hydro Pump or whatever, and, like, this one you killed using fighting moves, or, you know, sorry, killed. You literally killed that Pokemon.
Oh no!
Also, are we just letting him live in blissful ignorance?
And so like, it did a lot of things that I thought was, like, good. Is like, it's not just about, oh, you catch this many Pokemon, or like, oh, you've caught all of the ones in the Pokedex. It kind of encourages you to use different Pokemon, and it encourages you to, like, go out of your way to catch multiple of the same kind and stuff. And then, like, oh, you caught a big one, or you caught small ones, and, like, these all, like, do different things for your, like, stats, and, like, you're supposed to be studying them and blah blah blah. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was good. It encouraged you to play and to actually, like, try different Pokemon, and, like, you're encouraged to cycle them out and, like, use different ones instead of just being like, these are my strong ones, they're all the way leveled up, so I'm just going to keep using that specific group. It did a lot of those kinds of things well. But as a game, and understand that, like, I'm coming off of Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah, coming directly off of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And, like,
that's got to be a bit rough.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, Pokemon, but it's an open world game. And it's like, okay, you guys, Breath of the Wild came out a while ago, right?
Mm-hmm. A while ago?
Yeah.
A Breath of the Wild ago?
Yeah, it's been a breath since it came out. And the controls on that were really good, right? Like, it was very smooth to be like, oh, I'm climbing, or, oh, now I'm gonna jump and I'm gonna, you know, glide or whatever, and, like, all of these things, you know, getting on the horses and blah blah blah, like, all of that was very polished. And, like, you don't really think about it. It's one of those things where when it works well, you don't notice it, right? The opposite is Pokemon Legends.
It seems like you've maybe noticed some things.
Oh man, like, the further you get into the game, the worse it gets. Once you get, what is
Like-
it, Sneasler or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's like, oh yeah, you're trying to, oh, what's that? You want to sneak around in a cave to get around well, you're climbing now. And then, by the way, the button to like stop climbing is also the button to do something else. And like, you have to hit left and right to swap out which thing you're doing. And now you're auto set to Sneasler. So the next time that you want to run away, you're instead just going to be Sneasler, but like on flat ground.
Yeah.
For those who have not played, Sneasler, you get carried around in a little basket, which I do enjoy. I enjoy the little
Yeah.
eyes in the basket.
Yeah, that is good.
But like, Sneasler just walks at the normal pace. But if you switch to Stantler's the running one, so it's really fast, right? Or whatever it is, the bird one, I don't even remember. I like got to the bird one, and then the move kind of kicked into full gear, and I didn't really have time to be playing. But that, like, oh man, what a nightmare to be like, well, I want to fly, but then I'm going to land, but I need to land in water or something. Like, oh, please. You guys couldn't have spent a little more time on making the core of the game. Like, I mean, I guess it's not really core of the gameplay, but it's a big part of gameplay is exploration and run around. And that, like, that is very clunky. And Breath
You're
of the...
telling me it's not enough that you can just do combat rolls off of cliffs?
Well,
So what I'm hearing is that nobody should ever play Breath of the Wild because it ruins gaming for the
it
rest of your
does.
life.
And that's the
Every
thing is,
other
like,
game
guys,
was too bad.
like, you guys couldn't have taken some hints from Breath of the Wild? Like, technically, you're all owned by Nintendo, right? You couldn't have been like, hey, guys, just like, you know, walk
Well,
around.
that's the thing. I think they were trying. I think that was their effort to make something like Breath of the Wild, right? Like,
Well, yeah, but it's like, you know, I always liked Secret of Evermore, right, for the Super Nintendo, because it has the ring system that they use in Secret of Mana. But my favorite, like, anecdote or whatever about it is that it was completely programmed from scratch. That basically they saw it in Secret of Mana and were like, that was really good. It's not that, being that they're both Square games, that they just copied and pasted the code. It was literally that somebody else was like, that was a good idea. Let's implement that again.
Let's do it again,
And-
though.
Yeah, so they did that with Pokémon Legends, but sadly, it did not quite work out the same way.
well, like most Pokemon things, it's something that's just they instead of iterating on it in development, they just iterate on it in between games. Because I feel like, just like the sort of wild area was sort of an iteration on the open worlds that Arceus develops more.
Yeah.
Like the animal, the Pokemon companions that you use to get around the open world are sort of consolidated into one Pokemon that gains abilities in Scarlet and Violet. And it makes it a lot. There's glitchy stuff with regards to how the mechanics work, but in terms of like the UX, like design, it's a lot more streamlined because it's just you press one button and you have all of this. You have your Stantler and Sneasler and Braviary abilities all together.
Yeah.
In one thing. So I think that's sort of the answer to your question, is that they did iterate on it in the next game.
Yeah, good.
Though I'm not sure what they're going to do for the next one, because it was like the way that they did it with the sort of box legendaries was fun, but I don't know if that can be like the thing forever, right? Like it seems like they're going to have to come up with a different idea or just have a very different design for the next game.
Man, I forgot. It's been a while since I played. I had an Alpha Baniri.
Yeah, you can catch an alpha of every single Pokemon.
Basically,
I think
they were so big.
that is, I believe, the point, Jeddy.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, it's the point when it's like, you know, Snorlax or something, right? Like, wow, they're big and they're strong or something. But like, to be like, oh man, this Baniri, right? Or like, can I get a Bidoo that's like really big? Like, really big for a Bidoo. Oh, yeah, a big do.
And I am sorry to break your heart in disillusion, but for those who didn't catch it and aren't aware, there are over 1,000 Pokemon now.
Oh, are there?
Yes, that's why I laughed so hard when
I thought you were just referencing that there's only like 400-ish in Legends Arceus.
Yeah, I think that's where I was getting my number from, was that I looked it up at some point and I saw that, but that I missed that, yeah, there are in fact.
That's not... over 1,000.
Yep.
They had a whole video about it where they showed every single Pokemon that exists.
That's a lot.
Man.
Yeah.
It's over 1,000.
I remember when 150 was too many.
Was it actually too many?
I mean, when are you actually going to use Electabuzz, right?
I like Electabuzz.
Well, I mean, Electabuzz is fine now that they, like, evolve. But, like, at the time, it was like, why wouldn't you use some other electric type, right? Like, when are you going to use, Electrode?
Well, now Electabuzz was, like, really hard to get, I feel like. It was, like, rare.
Yeah, I remember that.
And now, and then shortly after that, they gave Magnemite the Steel type, which just made it clear and away the best of the standard electric types that you could get. And they haven't really surpassed I mean, you got Magnezone now.
I mean, 150 clearly wasn't enough, because we had to go and ruin their lives by looking for things like Missing No. So, clearly we wanted more.
At what point, Jeddy?
Yes.
Do you think? How many of the Pokemon games did you play? I know you played the original. Did you play nothing in between the original and Sword and Shield?
Basically, like, I mean, I played like a Mystery Dungeon, right?
Ooh,
and
those are good.
I think it was actually after Sword and Shield that I started going back and like playing. Like, I got used copies and was like playing some of the ones that I had missed, but like I never really like beat any of them. I just kind of like played a few hours of Omega Ruby or whatever.
I guess my question is, like, how many do you think you could, like, if I showed you a picture, you could name them?
Most of my knowledge comes from, like, oh yeah, I did play Sword and Shield, though. And that's the thing, is that, like, Sword and Shield has some, like, in-between Pokemon that I missed, and, like, Pokémon Legends has definitely introduced me to a whole lot of, like, new Pokemon. But, like, yeah, there's a lot that I just don't know about. That, like, if you had tried to tell me that, like, Electabuzz not only had an evolved form, but, like, a pre-evolved form, I would have been like, you're joking, right? Like, that one, that's what they decide.
Jeddy.
Yeah.
I can't tell. Are you joke? Is this the joke? What's the joke here?
What? I mean, like, I know that they do now. Like, I've seen Elekid or whatever. I mean, like, that one... Well, that one...
I thought you were saying that you didn't know about Elekid.
Well, no, I mean, like, I knew about Elekid because, he's referenced in Pokémon by Weird Al, right?
Okay. I thought you were just gonna end it at Pokemon, and I was like...
Pokemon, has referenced
I guess.
Elekid. But yes, the song Pokémon by Weird Al references Elekid. So, like, I was familiar, but, like, I don't know, there's a point where they've added a lot of those kind of, like, weird in-between ones.
Yeah, they stopped adding pre-evolutions.
Yeah.
In Gen 4, I think.
Man, because...
And then everything else is, like, either new forms, so, like, regional forms,
right,
or, like, new evolutions.
Yeah.
Sometimes those new evolutions are also sort of considered, like, the reason that it's a new evolution is because it's part of a regional form sort of situation. Like with Sneasler, right? Like, there's Hisuian, which is what they call the region in Legends. There's Hisuian Sneasel, but then Hisuian Sneasel evolves into Sneasler, which is not Hisuian Weavile. So it gets complicated.
Yeah.
Still waiting for Ditto to evolve.
Oh. What was that again?
Tritto.
Wow. Yeah. Oh man. That doesn't even make any sense. Would it have 3 eyes? I don't.
It would be exactly the same, but there's just 3 eyes.
Yeah.
The stats don't change.
It does exactly the same thing. Pokemon Legends, I want to like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the controls kind of get in the way.
That's sort of the short summary of your experience.
Yeah, like a lot of games, I want to like it, but
It's just impossible.
It feels like we're all sort of on an RPG kick lately, just based on talking to you on the podcast right now, at least. Because I don't know, one of the things I was doing, because I've been on a Pokemon kick too, but like, for example, one of the things I did was I looked up how, like, because there's a bunch of like newer Pokemon-like games that sort of came out. Like, obviously we covered Temtem, but there's a bunch of other that I think I've talked on another podcast too. And I was curious, like, because Pokemon has a very specific type of damage calculation, and I was curious, like, how other games solve that, like, do that. And the answer for some of them is they use the exact same damage formula. And then some use, like, a slightly modified version, and then some use, like, there's a difference between, right, like, whenever you attack in an RPG of any kind, you have an attack, and your opponent has a defense in some sense, right? If it's an RPG with enough depth that it's not just you have an attack. And that you can either attack minus defense goes into the damage formula, or attack over defense, like a ratio, goes into the formula. And I feel like I've only really played games where it's been attack over defense, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I remember you could play with that in RPG Maker back when I used to be an RPG Maker, or be into RPG Maker circa like
back when you were yourself an RPG, a maker of RPGs.
Yeah. Well, because like you could mess with the damage calculation, and I remember all the stuff about like, well, if you get a critical hit, or like if they're poisoned or something. And then also I just remembered this stupid worst formula that was Ragnarok Online, which was that you have Vitality, the stat, and you have Armor, which is basically armor at the beginning of the game is completely meaningless, because the armor that you can equip gives you like 10 defense. The thing is, that means it reduces damage by 10%. So when you're taking 5 damage, it does nothing.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, like literally. So it's like pointless to buy armor until like way later. I mean, granted that like it takes you like 2 days to level up enough to be able to equip something that can actually reduce the amount of damage that you take. But then meanwhile, Vitality is a straight minus. So if you have like 5 versus 10 Vitality at that rate, well, now you're taking 1 damage, right? But then like later in the game, when things are doing like 3,000 damage to you, it doesn't matter that you have 99 Vitality. But then they had like a skill for monks where your Vitality turns into armor defense. So then if you had 99 Vitality, like that would mean you get a 99% damage reduction.
That seems pretty powerful.
Yeah. I don't know, but like that was really just the stupidest. Like it's the most, we thought about this at the beginning and didn't think about it again for 10 years.
I thought you were gonna talk about the terrible formula for lovers who quarrel have to pretend to be related to get a discount on getting their picture taken that was in Ragnarok Online. At least that's what I learned in Hacks
right,
and
yes,
Slash.
from Hacks and Slash. Yeah. Yep. Classic.
That was
Ragnarok.
a bit of. I appreciate the cross promotion, Blue, but that was a bit of a reach.
I got it. I remember because I was the one who
He got it after he explained it to you.
Yes. But yeah, damage formulas, right? Like I feel like some mix of each, because I think there's a point now where like Ragnarok updated it so that like armor gives you, it's like 1% damage reduction, but also for every 4 points of armor, it equals 1 actual point of straight reduction or something stupid.
I think this just shows that you shouldn't use addition subtraction, because it's way too easy for one number to just become like completely useless in that equation.
Yeah, but it makes more sense with smaller numbers, I feel like, because like if you're talking about percents, then the percents have to get really big, right? I don't know, like.
But like if you make everything, if you just have to scale it, but it's like the numbers will get bigger, but then the percents will stay the same if both sides go up. So like if you have a level 5 versus a level 5, you'll do like half damage, and then if you scale up to level 100, you'll still do, if both sides scale up to level 100, they'll still do half damage.
Yeah.
That half damage is just now a bigger number.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I guess.
But I don't know. I feel like these are the sorts of things that, like, you know, we talk a lot about video games, and then we don't talk about like the really fundamental stuff. It's like, this is like one of the key important things that's used for like how the whole game works. Like the other thing is like overworlds and like random encounters.
Yeah.
Like especially like with Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon went from, you know, to this, when Pokemon went like off of the grid, or like system off the grid.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I mean, that's kind of what Legends Arceus is, right? You go off.
I guess so. Yeah, you're not wrong. I approve.
But like out of like random encounters in wild grass, but like, and even a little bit before that, like part of the game was like the overworld was like part of the game, not just sort of like an incidental space in between Pokemon battles, right? Like it was very common for you to have a situation where you would be presented with 2 paths, one that had tall grass where you could have wild encounters, and one where you would fight a trainer, and you had to make the decision on whether you would fight the one trainer now who would have stronger Pokemon and more Pokemon that you'd have to defeat all at once, or go through and, you know, the wild encounter section. And I feel like, and then they'll be like, oh, well, maybe there's an item in the tall grass, and are you going to go and try to get the item, or are you going to just head straight on ahead because you can't, you know, handle a wild Pokemon battle right now? And there's not real, and like, oh, there were overworld puzzles where you pushed rocks around, or you slid on ice. And I'm not saying that we need to keep those, or even that a lot of those boulder pushing puzzles were either way too simple or way too obtuse. Yeah. I think they only nailed it like twice in the whole series, where it was like, this is a fun puzzle.
The ice lining puzzles, it was like a good one and mostly just bad ones. But they didn't replace them with anything in the new design. So now the overworld, these open worlds, are just like empty space. Yeah. Because there's never a decision that you make aside from, oh, here's a Pokemon, am I going to start an encounter or not? No, but then also, like, people don't like wild encounters anymore.
I did like that in Pokemon Legends you could just get beaten up by a Pokemon.
Yeah.
That does make it...
That was a lot of
It's
fun.
not really a puzzle,
yeah,
but it adds some stakes, at least, to, like, how you move around the space.
Yeah, and they did have some good stuff with you know, the items where it's like you could get a smoke bomb or a scatter bomb, and like you know, gives you a bit of options. So like you don't have to be hiding in tall grass. You can make your own tall grass, but also if it disappears while you're like crouching there, you could get spotted. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm thinking also about Earthbound, right, where like the monsters are there on the map and you have a small amount of ability to either like choose to fight them or not. But then there's also games like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, where as you're fighting them, once you fight them, they're gone, you know? And I don't know, there's certain balancing points of each where like at least you kind of know as you go through what is coming up, versus like being stuck or surprised. I definitely think that like just complete random encounters is kind of a thing of the past, and maybe for the best. But
I definitely agree, but it's interesting. Like, I'm trying to think of like what is the best way to replace it without like making battling like completely optional.
yeah, because there is a point of like, well, what is the playing of the game? Because like there are like take the tactical game sort of method of gameplay, right? Like most tactical games don't really have an overworld. It's just a chain of essentially boss battles, right?
Right.
That like if you want to think about it in that way, is that like there's no there's no random battles to fill space. It's just you do a major story battle or you don't, and like maybe they'll have like a training grounds or something, like a practice area, but that like the primary expectation is that like you're just going to go to the next story mission when you're ready for it, and otherwise it's like a completely different form factor of doing story related stuff, like characters talking to each other and all that, and then you go to the next battle.
Mm-hmm.
But like you could do something like that with the normal RPG where it is essentially just boss battles. Right?
Yeah, but then it's like, then you almost wonder like, why is it even an RPG at that point?
Right, yeah. Like,
I mean, because like I think like Fire Emblem, some Fire Emblem games have mechanics like that where there's like leveling up, but then it's also all boss battles.
Right.
So it's like, what's the leveling up feels almost kind of scripted. Like there's,
right.
you don't have the kind of flexibility to decide whether you want to over level or not. But then like that's also like a core issue with RPGs in general, is like you can solve almost any problem just by like grinding and getting to a high enough level where you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
In a lot of games. And like how do you leave the flexibility of having a random number of encounters, a non-deterministic number of battles where you can get experience, but also not just let that scale out? And or is it even a problem that you need to solve?
There's also the games where that's just like part of the design, like Crystallis, our favorite. It's just like, sorry, you're useless. Go grind.
Well, I was gonna say is like in NES games, right? There's a point where the expectation is that the playing is supposed to be the fun, and that like, yeah, you're gonna go through regular battles, but that's like the fun of playing the game, right? And when I was 6, I would just sit around and grind, because to me, like, wow, look at the numbers. There they go. Right? That's the fun of the game. And I guess I wonder, like, because like Undertale, right? The battle system is kind of fun. Like, there's a little more to it than just you're clicking attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a bit of a puzzle game in which, like, the puzzles themselves can be fun. And so you have a bit of a, like, slight amount of randomness introduced to a puzzle, and that you can just kind of go and do that for a while. And that, like, it doesn't feel the same as just like, yep, I ran into another one, attack, attack, attack. Oh, what's that? I'm dying and I'm out of items. Great, cool. So, like, there is, instead of just saying, like, well, we're only going to do boss battles because boss battles are fun, you could also just say, well, the battles themselves could be done in a way that, like, the playing of the game itself becomes fun again, right?
Yeah, I think there's also, like, the thing in Earthbound that I'm kind of surprised we haven't just, like, figured out how to keep more, where it's like if you're at a point where a battle would be trivial, the battle just happens.
Yeah. That it just like tells you that you won because you're going to.
Yeah, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet kind of do this, but you have to like send your Pokemon out in a specific mode where it'll like automatically battle, and if it's like a clear win, it'll just do it.
Yeah.
But like it's not like if the common joke is like there's one of the new Pokemon is just like this tiny bug that you can barely see in the grass, and it's like it touches your toe and suddenly it's like da 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 da, and it's just like because you stepped on a bug. And it's like, oh no, I gotta deal with the bug. But I either gotta beat up the bug or run away from the bug, but it's become like this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, just like if the battle is not gonna be interesting, then let's just not do it. But you can still have random encounters, or maybe not random, but like, optional encounters that matter. And that maybe you like optional in the sense that if you have enough skill you can skip them, but right, you can avoid them on the map or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess comically enough, the game that I always think about, Seventh Saga, when you beat the boss in a dungeon, the dungeon becomes tame or whatever, that like you can just walk out, right?
Yeah.
And like I think a lot of Super Nintendo games, like basically after the boss you would either get teleported or there would be like, oh, there's a door or something that's behind the throne, and like now you just walk out. But that like for Seventh Saga it was like, yeah, this just becomes a place. It's no longer, haunted or whatever. And there's no longer enemies here. So like there's enemies on the way in but not on the way out. I don't know. There's different methods of managing random encounters.
Mm-hmm. I agree with those words you just said. There are different ways.
Yes, there are. I do think that my goal as a game developer is to you make the game fun, right? And so perhaps if battle was actually entertaining.
But you don't play games that you think are fun, Jeddy. So like I don't know, maybe you're a little misguided there.
Yeah. I struggle with it because like I do love those esoteric games. I still need to get back because I talked about playing Super Hydlide.
Yeah.
I do want to go and do that now that I'm actually like settled and I have my office set up and and I have the internet. But yeah, to play and show you guys Super Hydlide because oh man, I wish I could play it blind again just to give my confusion of like what do any of these numbers mean and why can I not carry a knife? I've come to find out though also it was like wildly more complex than I even could have imagined, and that like there's all sorts of stuff about there's good enemies and there's bad enemies, and you don't want to kill the good enemies or you're not going to get the good ending. And it's like maybe that was explained in the manual, right? But
I mean, or it's a secret trick for replayability, right? Like it's like, oh, you didn't know this thing, so you couldn't get the good ending.
It seems
try all over again.
Yeah, it seems too obtuse. Like
I don't know if you know this, but every single detail I've learned about this game so far can be described the exact same way. So...
What, you mean bad?
I think he was going for obtuse specifically, but
yeah.
Also that, yes.
But that's the thing is that, like, part of me just wants to make... Because, like, the graphics are completely unreadable. You cannot tell. And, like, it's weird because...
So the graphics are obtuse.
The graphics are obtuse. The gameplay is obtuse. Like, and like I looked at what regular Hydlide looks like, right? This is Super Hydlide. It's the sequel. And like, the original one has graphics that you can tell what they are, but Super Hydlide, for some reason, nothing. It's just so weird looking. And like, part of me wants to make a game. I wish I could be satisfied with myself and just allow myself to make something that was that like completely incomprehensible from start to finish. But
it would be such a fine line to draw on purpose, right? Of like something that is so clearly obtuse and obnoxious, but like still communicating to anyone who actually played it, like that this is on purpose and like this is the point.
Yeah.
And like, but also like being understanding, like it's not like, oh, it's the point that it's bad. No, it's supposed to be like funny. Like it's supposed to bring you like some sort of very specific emotion about like why is it like this.
A list of like clever design choices and then subvert them in a negative way.
And like I guess it's
what it sounds like this game does.
Like it's true. Is like there are people who play the original Dwarf Fortress and stuff, right? And it's like you're looking at a bunch of like hash signs and @ symbols and stuff, and you're enjoying it. But like,
yeah, there's definitely a way to do it, but it would be a really, you have to be really careful because it would be such a fine line to walk.
Yeah,
like it would have to, like I think at the end of it would have to be a game that like you could get through with a walkthrough, and like also like you could have the two experiences of like one playing it without knowing anything and things are just terrible, but like you're the kind of person who can like deal with that and think it's kind of funny because you know it's on purpose a little bit. And then another thing where it's like you've got a walkthrough, but then also the act of playing the game while reading the walkthrough is still just as wild because it's like, oh, make sure you haven't eaten any potatoes before you pick up the knife of Classaljar, because if you do, then you'll actually do -2 damage to yourself every time you use the knife.
Yeah.
And like, so then you can still avoid like having to discover that, but you can still read it in the walkthrough and be like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
It's definitely possible,
like,
but is it worth the time that you would spend on the joke? I don't know.
Yeah, like I do like how when you watch movies in the 80s or whatever, they'll like make fun of people who play video games, and that like somebody's explaining how to get through the video game, and it's like, well, don't forget to pick up, the crystal sphere when you're walking through, the cavern of darkness or whatever, because like you'll need that in level 7. And like it's fun to go back and play games like Super Hydlide and be like, no, they're absolutely right. Right?
If you don't get that crystal, you will not be able to beat level 7. Yeah. It's also fun though, like when they're clearly playing an RPG and then they start talking about level 7. Yeah. Well, now hold on a second.
What was it? I'm trying to was it Transformers where like the guy is playing DDR and he's like, oh, I was about to get to the next level. It's like level in DDR? Right? Yeah. Like
you get to pick the difficulty setting yourself.
Yeah, no.
You just meant the next song.
And like the mid-2000s was late enough for most people to be familiar with video games. Like, were they doing it on purpose? I don't.
Yeah, but not most people. I don't know if it was for most writers,
right?
To be, because like I mean, writers for TV and movies now like do know more about video games, but they still like show stuff from like the SNES or the Nintendo 64 or the GameCube.
And right? They always in TV shows you have people playing like their hands on their controllers in like the most disgusting way possible.
Yeah.
Just like slapped on them with no understanding of how they work at all.
Yeah, especially joysticks in particular, right? Like joysticks are always like flying over when you're actually playing a video game, like you mostly just hold the joystick in one direction.
Yeah. Like I mean, unless you're playing a fighting game or something, but
yeah, but they're not usually playing a fighting game.
Yeah, but then like there used to be a website that like tracked every instance of someone using a Nintendo 64 controller in media. Because it's like, of course they're holding it on both sides, right?
Right, because that would be, you would look at it and think that was the intent.
Yeah, because that's how you play Super Nintendo. That's how you play regular Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean the Nintendo 64 controller is the video game controller equivalent of a door that has a push bar on both sides, but one is a push and one is a pull.
Yeah.
That's the Nintendo 64 controller.
Yeah.
One side you're supposed to grab, but the other side you're not supposed to grab, but they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think it's time to talk about video games we've been playing in recent times. What do you guys think?
I do not think, therefore I do not act.
I just spent like the last hour talking about video games I played in recent times.
Yeah, Jeddy, you're excused. You're excused from the end of the podcast if you want.
Can I get a hall pass?
All bets. Blue, what video games have you been playing in recent times?
Still Midnight Suns. 2 days ago, the DLC came out. The first bit of DLC came out. But I'm still in the second act of the story. So I'm working my way through that. I've realized...
Is it like a free or a paid DLC, or
It's
is it like a
paid
battle pass
DLC.
system?
It's paid, but I got, like, the deluxe version or whatever, so I got it for free, or...
You paid for it already.
Yeah. I did not have to go through the process of paying for it again, or more, or at a later date. So I don't have experience with it yet, because I'm saving that till I finish the story, although it is accessible at any time, basically. So, I'm looking forward to it. I've realized, ironically, though, the main character, the hunter, is the most customizable in their abilities. I've sort of accidentally made them pretty useless compared to all the other characters. There are wise ways that other people would choose to change their loadout, but I'm stubborn and will play with my playstyle, and
So you could fix it. It's not like you made a bad decision and you're stuck with it. You've made a bad decision and you were continuing of your own free will to stick with that bad decision.
Yeah, because it fits my playstyle more, and so I might change it, but I also just might keep it the way it is, because I am, like, doing good still. So, we'll see how that develops.
Well, I'm sure you're all wondering what video games I've played in recent times, and you have no possible idea what it is.
Is it Mega Man?
It's not Mega Man.
Is it Pokémon Showdown?
I did play a lot of Pokemon, but I wasn't going to talk about it any more than we already have. What I played for one day over the last month that wasn't Pokemon was a Super Mario Party with some friends that I visited while on holiday. But we did it
Joseph,
in a special way.
How long
What?
have you been in the UK?
What do you mean? I mean, a while.
Hmm.
I don't understand what this has to do with
Sorry, you were with some friends
on holiday.
on holiday.
On vacation.
Thank you.
Is that what you want me to
Yes,
say?
so that's what I want you to say.
I'm telling you, I've never been in a place where people refer to not being at work as being on vacation, because I've never worked in a country. I've gone to school in a country. So in my brain, vacation is when you're not at school, and holiday is when you're not at work.
Yeah.
Also, to be fair, this was very specifically for a holiday.
Yeah.
Like, the holiday of Christmas and New Year's was the reason I was out of town.
Yes.
So, Jeddy, I think there's a little bit of room for some understanding here.
Okay,
You know?
Yeah. It was the holidays.
Jeddy?
I'll give that to you.
Yeah. Anyway, I played Super Mario Party, but with a fun twist, where you don't win if you get first place. You win if you get second place.
Wow. That's a good one.
Which I saw on YouTube videos.
That's a good one.
Which is what inspired it. Yeah, it was interesting. We actually tried to play like aim for third place, but the problem was that it felt like the best strategy was to just avoid getting stars at all.
Yeah.
And on most of the maps, that's actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
So then it just sort of becomes, well, then you just circle around the board and hope you don't get enough coins, which wasn't as fun. So we decided to do second place. I think you could do like third place or last place if it was a map where like getting a star, because the other rule we did was that you can't, if you hit a star and you can afford it, you can't say no. Because then again, you could just never buy a star. So like the idea is that like once people are getting stars, a star might appear right in front of someone and they don't have another option. And so people are trying to do different things. People have different goals depending on where they are in the hierarchy. But it was fun. I was a little worried that it wouldn't work, and the when we tried getting third place, it didn't really work. But second place I think did work, because there's just enough incentive to like get a star and then like hope you can kind of like shift it to someone else.
It's the sweet spot.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when we were playing what is the name of that game? Stun Race FX, where we were trying to race off the bridge.
Yeah, who could fall off the bridge first?
Yeah, like there is some fun to be had in not explicitly winning, right? Like making it some other goal other than, well, I just did the best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or even like making it a goal, because it's one thing to like change the rules, but have the same goal, right? Like a Nuzlocke, for example, where you play a Pokemon game and you give yourself extra rules, but at the end of the day, you've got the same goal.
Yeah,
it's still fun, but it's a totally different vibe when it's like, I'm playing this game for an ending objective that is explicitly contrary to the actual diegetic goal of the video game. I'm trying to think of other situations where that's like a thing you could do.
So were you doing bonus stars too? Because that's another thing to keep like in mind as you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could also turn them off if you wanted.
Yeah, but that's not fun.
I'm also
right.
Sorry, I was also thinking about all the mods in GoldenEye, like Slaps Golden Gun DK mode, that like trying to just like run around and slap each other, one hit, one kill. Classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that there's some fun to be had in alternative game modes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What are some other ones that you could do? Like, I'm trying to think of like, what are games where you could set it up so like who can lose the fastest or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind. If you listening, in the comments, if you're in a place where you can leave comments, like the GameCola Discord, or the GameCola website, or the GameCola YouTube channel, you could think of some fun ways to play video games where you like the end goal is different than the stated goal of the game. Let us know, because I've been trying to think of more, and I want to think of more, and I can't right now. My brain won't let me. It's impossible. It's an impossible task. Aside from that, yes, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon. I've been playing a lot of online Pokemon Showdown with competitive Pokemon, enjoying some of the new formats. Doing
pretty well.
I've been trying to get on the ladders of being in the top 500 of people playing that format, which is easier or difficult depending on which format you're talking about. Like, I did 1v1, which is you bring 3 Pokemon, then you see your opponent's 3 Pokemon, and then each of you picks 1 Pokemon, and then that is the battle that you do. So there's like 2 stages. There's the stage of like picking the right Pokemon, which is almost like can be like a rock, paper, scissors sort of thing, but then you actually have to play it out. And it's like rock, paper, scissors if like scissors could secretly be rock and you didn't realize it.
Right.
What about Pokemon 99?
What? What?
As opposed to Pokemon 100?
Well, like
Pokemon 1000? That's a movie.
Tetris.
What are you referring to?
Tetris 99? Or wasn't there like a Super Mario Bros. 99 or something?
Okay.
Pokemon,
It'd be like a Nuzlocke, but Battle Royale competitive. That would be...
Because I guess like
I
it wouldn't
see
be
that
like...
being very terrible.
I think that would just end up being like a round-robin tournament. There's
I think the difference here is that you go immediately from one battle to the next with all the all your power points used and your health gone and stuff.
Well, there is a mode on Pokemon Showdown where they implemented like a mode that's called like free for all, where it's 4 people.
Ooh.
But they're all battling each other.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because there's been one where it's like 2 people on one team.
Yeah.
And 2 people on another team.
I like that idea. That's really cool.
But the problem with it is that people would like forfeit like a couple turns in, and then that just like if you were spending your time like working on that, focusing on that, then that person, and then that person was gone, well, so then you're at a disadvantage because you could have been focusing on the other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also people would just get incredibly salty.
I mean, that's just Pokemon
Because
Showdown.
it's like, why did you beat me up when you could have beat them up? Because they have one more Pokemon. It's like, well, yes, but your Pokemon is currently in danger of, like, sweeping the whole
You
field.
have a
So, like,
Kyogre, and he has a Elekid.
yeah. Sometimes the best thing to do is to just eliminate you as the competition. And we've all just sort of systematically agreed on it. But people would get salty and quit, and then, like, you would end up very quickly just end up in a regular 1v1 with just, like, a slightly weird beginning.
Yeah.
And then I've been trying to stay on the ladder of the random battles, which is, I think, the most popular one because it's the default one and it doesn't require you to have any idea of how to build a team because you just get a random team.
Right.
And I feel like also doing well on that speaks to your ability to play the game.
Yes. I agree.
So I've been sort of bouncing on and off the ladder of that. And like I think the top is like rank is like a rating of like 2200, and I've been bouncing around like 18 and 1900, which is like just on the like either just off the ladder or around the bottom of the ladder, like 500 to 300.
Have you yet played Pokemon Infinite Fusion?
I have not.
His
It sounds like you would really like me to.
I think it is...
I was actually thinking about picking up Koromon, which is one of the Pokemon alikes. But maybe I should do
not
Infinite
heard of
Fusion
that
first.
one.
Yeah, it's a newer one. And it's because the other, so like the three big ones that I think I hear about the most are Temtem, Koromon, and Nexomon.
Right.
And what I've heard is Nexomon has like some pretty good presentation, but the battle system can be a little simplistic for certain people, like depending on how much depth you want to have in the battle system.
Right.
Isn't Koromon one of the
then-
Digimon?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I just think if...
It's spelled with a C, if that means anything.
Okay.
At least U.S. trademark law protects them.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that if you're, like, if you would have a passing enjoyment of Pokemon, Infinite Fusion is just, like, such a cool idea for a fan game that it's worth checking out for at least a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I might do that.
Has anyone made a Pokemon tabletop RPG?
Yes, multiple.
Really?
Yes.
Man.
There's a lot of podcasts.
There's,
You did. You also have done it.
With Pokemon?
We didn't ever play it, but you made it.
With...
Weren't you working on a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
Oh,
yeah,
right.
that's
I
also-
forgot. Yeah. No, sorry. I keep thinking
So
about the Mario
there's-
Kart one.
PTA, and there's...
That one we have actually played.
You did?
Oh, yeah, we did. And we just never published it. It was like a test, but...
Yeah, I don't think we recorded it. I think it was like you, me, and Paul, maybe someone else.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
It was fun once. I don't know if it would have been fun a second time. It might be fun again now that it's been so long, but also like I don't know. Maybe we should do that just for a bonus RPG cast at some point.
Right, roll a 1d4.
And there's...
You found the document.
Yeah, it was on my desktop.
I would say don't even. I think that it'll be most enjoyable if people go to it with no information on how it actually works until they start watching or listening to it.
Yeah.
There's a Mega Man tabletop RPG too. I've got that. Yeah, Pokemon has a few. There's Pokemon Tabletop Adventures, Pokemon Tabletop United, and then I think there's Mystery Dungeon hacks for both, or at least one of them. And then there's also just others that aren't those, but those are the, like, big ones that I'm aware of. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just reading my rules. Oh man, these are good.
For Mario Kart.
Yeah, these are some good. I went pretty in depth, and it's like based on the original game. Like it kind of follows the rules of the original Super Nintendo Mario Kart pretty well.
I mean, it's almost like a Mario Kart board game, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Just without a board.
Yeah. I think that I did have a little map that I drew for myself. I'm not sure where that went.
Yeah.
But like to kind of keep track of where the players are.
But like if you put it on a board and like had that board to keep track of where the players are, it would be effectively a Mario Kart board game.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of like, I do not recall much role playing.
Yeah, no, I do have, there is tracking in this that lists, it looks like Anna won. That Anna was Peach, you were Mario, Paul was Bowser, and I was Toad. And that, oh yeah, keeping track of the obstacles. Yeah, sorry. No, maybe we can do that again sometime. Little April Fools this year or something.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, I think we've rounded up. We're I don't know where the podcast has sort of ended up. We've kind of lost the plot a bit.
Yeah.
So it might be time to wrap up. So thank you for listening to this edition of the GameCola podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to check us out on our actual internet website, GameCola.net, or our YouTube channel, GC.net, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net, or at GameCola on YouTube. You can find the podcast, you can find videos, you can find any of the live streams if we ever decide to do that Super Hydlide stream, which I would really like to do. That would be fun.
That, yeah. Now that I'm back.
I have to finish Crystallis as well.
Oh yeah.
Redeem myself.
You can also be sure to hang out with us on the Discord, which you can find a link in the Twitter description, on GameCola website, in the video description.
It's been
come hang out,
pretty lively lately.
Chat with us.
Yeah,
come watch me post video game related news articles that I think are interesting, and then don't expand any thoughts on them and just leave.
You can
or do Martin Joseph slander.
you can see me post kids write jokes like a bear walks into a bar. He says, "Can I have 2 pints, please?" The fireman says, "Why have you got big feet?"
It's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, you're missing out if
hang
you're not.
out.
Sorry, and then, Jack Nicklaus and Mario. So I'm just reading.
I think that's a good teaser. Like, what is that even? You'll have to scroll back to give them the date so they can find it in the history.
That was John Risley on January 26th at 9:58 p.m.
In what channel?
Off topic.
Okay. Yeah, we've got great channels like GameCola, Games, Off Topic, Announcements.
Hitmonlee. That's
It's
for all of you to find all the Hitmonlee sightings in the...
Yes.
Thank you again for listening to this edition of the GameCola podcast. Rate us highly on any podcasting thing that you can rate us highly on if you can. Have a wonderful time of day, wherever it is, whenever it is you are listening to this podcast, and we will see you next month. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Anna, have you played any video games in recent times? What? Oh, did you have more to say?
No, I'm just, and I had to go.
Oh,
I thought you knew, and we're just doing
I thought you were making a joke. And that she was going to record later, and you were just going to record it and then insert it.
Oh, we should have done that.
We could do that. We could. I'll put it in, and if it works out, it works out. Well, I already said it, so I didn't. I don't have Discord. I have the computer.
Oh right,
next to me.
yeah. Your recording method. Are you under a blanket right now?
No, I gave up on that. It didn't make it really sound that much better.
Yeah,
it just had a lot of blanket noises.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, we'll segue back. We'll say, Wow, Anna, that's very interesting.
Yeah. I'd like to play that one sometime.
I hate that one.
Blue, how could you say that about Anna's video game?
It's,
Yeah, it
I
sounded really interesting.
Speak the truth.